Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. I'm very excited for the conversation that we are going to have today, which is going to help you go to the next level and succeed even more. And when I think about success, right, has something crucial that I've realized is very, very important. You cannot build something big if the foundation is not sorted. And in trying to sort the foundation, a step that matters most, even before laying the foundation, is clearing the ground for the foundation to be stable enough. For example, if you're trying to build a building, you cannot expect to do that on top of trees, right? If you want to make that land that is suitable for creating, let's say, the biggest building in the world, you're gonna have to take the time to smooth it out, to remove the trees, to make sure the level of the ground is equal and same throughout. And then you can start digging to build the right foundation. Well, for that, the step before the digging as well is the removing. The step that comes before any big action step is the clearing part. And that's the step a lot of us often miss when it comes to our own journeys of success in life. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of times we try to chase big goals, right? And all of us have them. Be it in our relationships, be it in our career, we have this vision of who we want to be, of what we want to achieve. But before we can prepare ourselves to be the person who gets there, the problem that happens is we don't clear the ground of the past. We don't remove the dust and the mud of who we've been and just continue with those same old resistances, blocks, and patterns. And that is what holds us back. That is what keeps us stuck in the same old cycles. And today's session is aimed at just one simple thing. I want to help you learn the science and the art of breaking through these old barriers, of breaking through these old resistances, of clearing up the land so that you can allow yourself to shine and succeed like your best self. So let's start by defining the vocabulary, okay? Let's start by understanding what are these limitations, these resistances, and these blocks actually called. If I had to put it into one term, it would be called limiting beliefs. I'm sure you've heard this term before, right? Maybe in a motivational video. Maybe you've heard this when you've worked on yourself a bit or just in general context. But if you put limiting and beliefs together, I think the term is pretty self evident. There's not a lot of explanation needed. Limiting beliefs are just ideas and thoughts about the world that you hold that you believe to be true but are not actually true. They're just a belief, and that is a belief that is actively limiting you from becoming your best version. All of us at every stage of our life have these limiting beliefs. If you didn't have any limiting beliefs, you'd be God. That's the simple measure. I mean, the fact that most of us don't even have acceptance of this is the scarier part. Because then we are not building our life on a plain ground, then we are not building the success we want on the foundation that is ready for it, but rather on the shaky grounds of the past that cannot hold a solid future together. So, the acceptance that we have limiting beliefs that yes, we have ideas about ourselves and the world and life that are not fully empowering, that acceptance is where the change begins. Now, when we accept that, right, we move into the second step, which is understanding how do these limiting beliefs even show up in our life, because that's how we get rid of all the blocks. So, this is the way to think about that. Very simple. Whenever there is any limiting belief that shows up, it does so because it has a story, and that story is backed up by reality, which is what makes the belief seem true enough. So, for example, if I was coming up to you and I was saying, hey, did you know the sky is black? You'd probably not believe me on that. If I specified at night the sky is black, okay, cool. Now it makes a bit more sense. But if I, let's say, go and say, okay, let me think of something crazier. If I say the sky is always bright orange, of course you're going to say that's not true. So, our limiting beliefs are not silly statements like the sky is orange. Our limiting beliefs are statements that sound very reasonable, that sound very true, that sound very convincing. Why? Because they are backed by reality. They are backed by our experiences. They are backed by things like past trauma, by stressors, by challenges. So, honestly, they've done their prep work very well. They have a strong ground to work upon. And that's why it becomes hard to look through them and to see them as limiting beliefs and not as, ultimate truth of life. That requires courage, that requires reflection. That's what I'm introducing you to today over here. So, any limiting belief that you have, right, it comes with these two parts: the reality, and the reality that is then used to create the story. So, let me lay out what the classic limiting belief is that a lot of us have. And that belief is making money is very difficult. Some of you have said this to yourself at some point in your life. And that is a story you believe about money, that making money is difficult. But why does that story seem so plausible? Why does it seem so real? Well, that's because you have an idea that is not so empowering, that is not so helpful. And that idea is now being backed up by the reality that making money has always been a struggle in your life. So you have this justification. Well, look at my life. I'm working so many hours, and in so many hours, I'm only making this much money. What's the growth? Nothing. And that's why making money is difficult. So you see, limiting beliefs are very sneaky. They have all the proof, all the logic, all the perfect justifications for why they exist. And that's why they can seem like truths, like edicts, like laws, rather than just a false story and a false belief. So, how do you manage this dichotomy? How do you break out of this? And how do you actually get rid of these blocks that are holding you back? Well, simple. You first separate the reality from the story. This is what most people struggle to do. They're just not able to take this step because they have married the reality and the story so closely that now it's all mumbo jumbo. Now it's all the same. Now you cannot separate it. Well, you have to take in the effort to question your thoughts enough to create the distance, to create the separation, and to see that, oh, yeah, the story is different and the reality over here, that's very, very different. So, how do we apply this to the limiting belief example you were talking about, that making money is difficult? Okay, let's do this together and you'll see how beautifully this process works for getting rid of any thought and any step that's holding you back. So, step one is understanding what's the reality. How do you understand the reality? You look at your life right now. What is that life representing? And what your life is representing is right now you are working, let's say, 14 hours a day, making only 1 lakh a month. This is the reality, okay? No doubt about denying that reality, because there's no point in doing that either. Your mind is too smart to believe a lie. So we're going to acknowledge that reality. No problem with that. Now, making 1 lakh rupees a month, working 14 hours a day, you are the one who's attaching the story that therefore making money is a struggle. Understand this very carefully. Making money is a struggle is not your reality. Your reality is what? I am working 14 hours a day and I am making only 1 lakh rupees a month. That's over there the reality. You are over and above the reality, assigning the story and the meaning of that means making money is a struggle. That's why making money is so difficult. All of these things. Now, on this reality, can you choose a newer story? 100% you can. And the story that you can choose is, I'm working 14 hours a day, I'm making 1 lakh rupees a month. That means there's scope for me to grow more, and I'm grateful for the income I am able to create. Now, when you change the story, you change the limiting belief, you remove the block. When you remove the block, you make way for the magic and the success and for your mindset to expand. Now, let's apply the same lens to relationships, okay? Reality and actions. One of the most common problems that happens between couples is, you don't love me. That's the biggest complaint they have. You don't understand me, you don't get me, you don't love me, all that stuff. And that can ultimately balloon into fights that are so severe and so serious that they threaten the existence of the relationship itself. So it's good to know this art. It's good to know this ability of how to differentiate between your reality and your story. So let's go deeper into this, okay? My partner does not love me. My partner does not respect me. This is the story. Now, how's the story being backed? By the actions that the partner takes. Maybe the partner doesn't prioritize you. Maybe he or she lies to you. Maybe something or the other happens. So then you bring this two together so well that you can't even see the difference, that the reality is separate and your life is separate. The story is separate. So in this case, okay, let's take the example, my partner does not love me, and that's why this relationship is never going to work. That panic, that anxious, that worried story. Well, that's the limiting belief, that's the block. Look at the action. The reality is, my partner did not call me at the time that I expected and prioritize something else which I thought wasn't a priority. That's the reality. That's what happened. On top of that, if you are the one who's assigning the story, oh, that means he doesn't love me, that means she doesn't care about me, well, then who is the creator of your suffering? Who is the creator of your limitations? Not your partner, it's you. But the ability to distinguish between the reality and the story is what you have to practice, and that is what you have to master. I'm telling you, if you can learn this art, and if you can learn this skill, and if you can balance both these sides and see that it's just your story causing you your troubles, that's your limiting belief, and that even if your reality is different, you can choose to believe something different, something more empowering, something more positive, then, my friends, you can unlock the life of your dreams. It's easy to not get triggered by people. It's easy to stay composed. It's easy to become a leader, provided you know this art, you know this way of thinking, you know how to approach situations from a whole new, empowered, powerful, and amazing lens. That happens when you learn to finally break through your blocks, not by trying to convince yourself or delude yourself into believing something that is not true, but by questioning the process enough to be able to separate the reality from the story, and then to retire the stories and the beliefs and the limitations that are no longer serving you. That's how you level the land. That's how you remove resistances. That's how you clear up a lifetime of believing things that are not helpful for you. Divorce the reality from the story, and freedom exists for you right here today, right where you are. There is no suffering in reality. The suffering is in the story, and in the positioning, and in the image, the mind's image that you are assigning to that reality. And remember, no matter how challenging that reality is, you always, always, always have the ability to choose a mental image and to choose a story that empowers you. I hope you always remember that, because that's your gift, that's your strength. Tap into it, go deeper with it, and keep questioning yourself. That's how you build the life of your dreams. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for tuning into today's session. And I'll see you once again live tomorrow at the same time. That is 8:30 p.m. IST. Bye. See you soon.